Alright, so far you got the wheel assembled, you set it up, got everything out, you coned it, you centered it, opened the clay, you made the nice floor going back and forth. So now we're ready to start raising this wall up and getting it to thin out. I think that one thing that I see a lot of is kind of a sloped little bit of clay down here. So before we start, we're going to give ourselves a little leg up. We're going to take our wooden rib, and this is just an extension of your fingertips. Your fingertips are like that, and this has a little hole in the side, and you grab it, and it's just a little bit longer than your fingertips. All right, it was made ergonomically designed to do that. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold your one hand with the other hand. You're going to put this down the wheel, and you're going to push it slowly and consistently. Same pressure on, pressure off that we were talking about. And you're going to straighten up the side to make that easier to pull the clay from the bottom up into the rim of the form. Okay? I can give you a little bit more height here so that as I pull up on it you can see what's going on. Giving you a little different perspective on the wheel so that you can see my finger positions. Every time that you pull the wall, you're going to dip the sponge in the water, and you're not going to wring it out. You're going to let it drip, okay? Not on your piece, but you're going to want it that saturated. You're just going to touch it to your form, go up the wall, over the top, down onto the inside, then you're going to wring out your sponge and soak up the water that was kind of sitting down at the bottom. Do that every single time, and it's going to lubricate the clay so that your fingers don't get caught on it. Alright? So when I do a wall pull at the beginning, and I recommend for beginners to use the sponge, what you want to do is the inside hand, okay, the tips of the fingers, let me show you. The tips of the fingers right here are what make contact with the clay. Alright? So that inside hand is going to be doing this. Alright? It's all the way at the floor. Remember that little angle that you made with your finger when you were compressing the floor? That's actually where my fingers are right now. And then it's getting a little grippy. I got to re-wet. Okay? You saw my fingers kind of move a little bit. You want to keep them a little bit bent, not flat. Flat is bad. You want to get a little grip underneath it. Then on the outside, I'm going to be pressing with my fingers straight aligned like this. Without the sponge, it would look like this. Okay? You can see I'm already starting to create a divot underneath there. So I'm just going to put the sponge right over those two fingers, and I'm going to squeeze. Look at my thumb. It's a bridge between the two hands because I want them to move together. Okay? My elbows are locked onto my legs. My one elbow on my left side is locked into my hip. And I'm going to squeeze a little bit at the bottom and then start to focus more on lifting the clay. And this first pull is just going to be a real gentle pull. And as you get to the top right here, okay, you want to have less and less pressure until you're basically just floating over the top of the form. Alright, you don't want to squeeze at the rim. That would be bad. It'll create a dent in the rim, and that dent will spin around and throw you off. Okay? As you pull the slip up the side of the clay, it's going to all end up here on the rim. So what I do is called hush the chicken. Okay? There's the chicken. Bok, 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 bok. Okay? Bear with me, alright? Sorry. Shh. Okay? Hush the chicken. Now the beak goes right here, and this finger pushes down, and you see what happened there? All the slip was cleaned off in the chicken's beak and on the back of that finger. So that little simple move will compress the top of your form and remove all that ugly slippy stuff. Okay? So, back to the beginning now. That was our first pull. We're going to wet, starting at the bottom, saturated sponge, over the top, and back down the inside. Squeeze the excess water out and dry up the water in the basement. Okay? I'll do it this time without the sponge so you can see the little indent that I'm making. So I'm going to push, squeeze a little bit at the bottom, and then start pulling the clay upward. My nose is over the inside of the clay, and then float away over the top. Again, not pinching that rim, right? But a lot of slip is going to build up at the top. So I want to take care of my rim each time. Just a little compression. Hush the chicken. There's all that slippy stuff that came off the outside of the piece. Re-wet up the outside. Make sure you don't go too fast like this. Fast like that, you won't cover the whole outside. Slow, up over the top, back down the inside, all the way to the bottom. Wring it out and get that extra water out of the base. We don't want a lot of water sitting in the bottom of the form here, mostly because it'll turn it into slip and then it won't dry evenly. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit more height here. Okay, going back in for another pull. Don't focus on this push together the whole way. Squeeze only at the bottom, but you got to get under the clay. It's like you're picking up a big cardboard box full of bricks. If you only hold the sides, your hands are going to slip off the form. If you get underneath that cardboard box full of bricks, suddenly you can lift it. So at the bottom of that pole, what I'm doing is getting underneath the clay. That little ball of clay, if you watch on the side of your form, if it doesn't come all the way up to the top, you're not really making the form taller. Okay? So your first assignment here is a 5-inch tall form. So I have these little rulers. I cut them so that they're exactly 5 inches because I was tired of cleaning off my rulers, and these were garbage anyway. So I chopped them up. Each one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches because they get all caked full of clay. So you can put this up, and at this stage I'd start to measure. Right now I'm at about 4 inches. All right, so I got to get up to here or above out of this 2-pound ball of clay, or else I can't keep it. Okay, so I'm going to go back in for more. You re-wet because I was sitting there talking to you. Slow up over the top, back down the inside. Wring it out, dry up the water on the inside. Okay, let's go again. Bridged thumb over the fingers, squeeze. And up we go. It's very, very little pressure at the top. Okay, so that's a nice straight form. Got a little bit of a slope at the bottom if you wanted to, and I would recommend this every once in a while, is to take and trim that up by pushing in with that nice right angle. You're going to remove a good chunk of that sloped clay, and that allows you to get all the way underneath this big hunk of clay that's at the bottom. Okay. Alright, how far did we get with that one? Hey, we're almost at 5 inches. Okay, another pull, and I think we'll be there. Wet the clay, up the side. Takes a little bit longer now. Don't rush it. This part is important because if you have a dry spot, it's like hitting a speed bump. Your hand will slow down and it'll warp the whole form. Okay, now I'm getting to a point where I can't quite bridge the gap here. If I get any taller, I won't be able to get my thumb over for that stability so that both hands move together. That's going to be a whole new bag of tricks when you have to get your whole hand inside and keep it steady. Really, you want to brace it against the side of your body. Posture has a lot to do with good throwing. Is knowing what position to put your body in, where to put your legs, how to get your feet flat on the ground. Once you start to understand that, things get a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to get that ball of clay at the bottom and start to lift. Now don't lose your grip on the inside. The inside fingers are just as important as the outside fingers. What they're doing on the inside, don't let them flatten out. When they're flat, all they're doing is rubbing against the clay. They're not lifting it. When you lift, you have your fingers bent a little bit on the inside. It's hard to show you on the inside of the form what they look like because you can't see in there. Wish I could put the camera in there. It's not a bad idea. You want to get a GoPro, throw it inside the clay. All right, where did that get us? All right, we're well above the 5-inch mark here. And I'm running out of clay. All right, I'm using 2 pounds. I think a 5-inch cylinder out of 2.5 pounds is pretty good. Okay, but this is about as far as you want to get. The clay is getting pretty thin, and I don't want to be greedy. When you get greedy and you start thinning the clay too much, not only does it weaken it in the kiln, but it makes your wall pulls a lot more difficult. Okay, so at this stage, I'm going to do a quick couple of compression pulls just to even it out. Compression pulls is when I'm just pushing my fingertips gently together and running them up the form. I'm not trying to raise the form up. All I'm trying to do is compress the clay. Because this is all spiraled, I've really kind of stretched the clay a lot. What you might find is that when you fire, you'll get a spiral crack, especially if you pull too fast and too hard. All right, that clay gets stressed out and it remembers that. So what I'm going to do is come in with just my fingertips. You can use 2 ribs. And I'm also kind of straightening out the clay as I go. Bridge my thumb across as I get there. Up to the very top like that. Okay. Okay. So that is wall pulls. You got that. Practice it. It's going to take you a while. It takes everybody a while. For every inch tall that you want to go with the form in height, it's going to take you about an hour of sitting here practicing and failing. So enjoy your next 5 hours of practicing this technique, and then you'll be ready to move on to the next video.